Welcome to Instructional Design, where we're going to talk about definition of instructional design, theory, models, and practice. Today's plan includes 5 key components. 1. Instructional design definition. 2. Instructional design theory. 3. Instructional design models. Putting it all to practice, and closing remarks. So, instructional design, what is it? Instructional design is the creation of instructional materials with careful consideration of how students learn and what materials and methods will most effectively help individuals achieve their academic goals. Instructional design is defined as the systematic and reflective process of translating principles of learning and instruction into plans for instructional materials, activities, information resources, and evaluation. Instructional design is the process by which learning products and experiences are designed, developed, and delivered. Instructional design theory, the theoretical foundation of it. First, behaviorism equates learning with changes in either the form or frequency of observable performance. Learning is accomplished when a proper response is demonstrated following the presentation of a specific environmental stimulus. And then there's cognitivism, where cognitive theories focus on the conceptualization of students' learning processes and addresses the issues of how information is received, organized, stored, and retrieved by the mind. Learning is concerned not so much with what learners do, but with what they know and how they come to acquire it. And then constructivism, a theory that equates learning with creating meaning from experience. Okay, the 3 models of instructional design that we'll focus on for today or this presentation. So the first one is behaviorism, the ADDIE model, where you analyze or identify all the variables that need to be considered when designing the course, such as learner characteristics, learner's prior knowledge resources, available, etc. One very common question is, what is the point of the training? Why are we doing it? What type of behavioral change is desired? Will training actually help? This phase should be a full audit of the audience, business goals, training methodologies used, media types used, etc. Once this is done, you can generate a training plan that addresses who, what, when, where, why, and how. And then D, design. This stage focuses on identifying the learning objectives for the course and how materials will be created and designed. For instance, it may include describing what content areas are to be covered and a storyboard outlining what will be covered in text, audio, and video, and in what order. And deciding on the selection and use of technology, such as an LMS, which is a learning management system, video, or social media. And then with development, the creation of content. And that's including whether to develop in-house or outsource, copyright clearance for third-party materials, loading of content into a website or LMS, and so on. And then you have implementation. This is the actual delivery of the course, including any prior training or briefing of learner support staff and student assessment. And then finally, evaluation. Here, there's feedback and data is collected in order to identify areas that require improvement. And this feeds into the design, development, and implementation of the next iteration of the course. What to focus on? Did we meet the goals as set out in the analysis phase? Take feedback and place back into the analysis phase, identifying other training requirements, possible change in media types or approach. This is the design model used by many professional instructional designers for technology-based teaching. ADDIE has been almost a standard for professionally developed high-quality distance education programs. It is also heavily used in corporate e-learning and training. There are many variations of this model. For example, PADDIE, P-A-D-D-I-E, where planning and or preparation are added at the start. All right. The second model is the Dick and Carey model, which prescribes a methodology for designing instruction based on a reductionist model of breaking instruction down into smaller components. So stage one, the instructional goals. The first step is to figure out the instructional goals. Okay. This means that you're able to or will be able to identify what it is the students need to learn. And then in stage two, instructional analysis, that's determining the skills that your students will need to learn what you plan to teach them. And then stage three, entry behaviors and learner characteristics. Here you have to assess which skills the students have out of those that you previously determined are needed for the lesson. And then stage four, performance objectives. They determine the specific goals and objectives for a lesson. So, for example, SWAT, SWBAT, or student will be able to. And then stage five, criterion reference test items. Create a test consistent with the performance objectives that will reflect what you're hoping to teach the students. These are meant to help the students understand and what they have or have not mastered yet, and are a checkpoint for the parents or administrators. And then stage six, instructional strategy. Outline your lesson plan, which demonstrates what you want them to learn, add activities, and decide how each segment will be done. If you want to have group activities, now is the time to decide when and what materials will be covered by the activity. Stage seven, instructional materials. Make sure you have what you need ready for the lesson. And then next, formative evaluation. Evaluate how the lesson went. And then stage nine, or the final one, summative evaluation. And that's where you revise and tweak where needed. So, based on behaviorist and cognitivist learning, Gagne's 9 events of instruction is a widely used instructional design model that specifies the 9 steps that guide learners' learning process. This model has been widely used in computer based learning in the past 4 decades. The 9 steps of instruction include gaining the attention of the students. It's the teacher's job to get them primed, focused, and ready to learn the topic at hand. Informing the learner of the objective. We want to quickly educate the student about what they should expect to learn during the lesson. This further primes them and gets them ready to receive information and predict what they'll need to comprehend and deliver at the end. And then stimulating recall of prior learning. After you've gotten their attention and explained the lesson objectives, it's time to prime them even further and draw out their prior learned knowledge of the given topic. Having students remember what they know provides a refresher so they're ready to add to that foundation. And then presenting the content. Now that you told the students what you're going to tell them and gotten them pre-engaged with the subject matter, it's time to present the lesson material and scaffold upon that prior knowledge base. Ideally, this presentation stage should be carefully planned out, but with enough flexibility to allow for a spontaneous discourse. Teachers should strive to offer material using various delivery methods such as audiovisual media, lectures, physical demonstrations, and when you can, add on hands-on practice whenever possible. And then providing learning guidance. Before and during the content presentation, it's beneficial to provide students with examples of suitable outcomes. Eliciting the performance, they must either practice or demonstrate their newfound knowledge in a manner you can assess. Known as eliciting the performance, i.e., giving them the chance to show you that they did their job and learned what you taught, it's a critical step because it allows educators to gauge their success and lets the student practice and thereby reinforce knowledge. Providing feedback. Instructor real-time feedback is crucial to completing the teaching learning cycle. There are 4 types of feedback: confirmatory, evaluative, remedial, and descriptive or analytic. There's also peer evaluation and self-evaluation. And then assessing the performance. After the student demonstrates the level of understanding and has been given feedback, the teacher can do a comprehensive assessment to gauge the extent they met objectives. Assessment techniques include giving oral quizzes or offering pre and post lesson quizzes to measure learning efficacy. Enhancing retention and transfer. Retention applies the student's ability to internalize, then remember what they learn, whereas transfer describes their ability to apply the knowledge and skills in a real world setting. Putting it all into practice. Favorite part for me, by the way. So for me, I would use the ADDIE model in my current place of employment where I'm working on revising and updating the current training materials. This was a project that I started last year, and I would take a moment to assess where we are now with the trainings and where we want to go to determine next steps. In addition, based on what I learned during this week's assignment, I would also ask myself and my manager the following questions. What is the point of the training? Why are we doing it? What type of behavioral change is desired? And will training actually help? Does it sound familiar? The readings this week suggest a full audit of the audience, business goals, training methodologies used, media types used, etc. Once this is complete, I can have a better idea of the next steps. Well, this concludes my presentation for this week. I hope that this was very informative for you and that you enjoyed listening or watching it as much as I enjoyed presenting. Until next time, take care.